This is the Hiboy C1. This bike is absolutely amazing for the size that it is. It's one of the best mini bikes or most powerful that I've come across so far. Fit in the back of a car, fit in the trunk, it'll fold down. 350 watt motor that peaks out at over 500 watts. We're gonna go over all the specs on this bike and I'll show you why I thought it was such a surprise. We even took it up a hill that we normally would never take a small mini bike up because we just felt it had the power and it did pretty well. Check out this review, let's get started. Unboxing and assembling the Hiboy C1 was really easy to do. There was only 4 parts that need to be added to the bike. One was the seat, the other is the handlebars, then there's a rear fender and 2 pedals, the left and the right, that have to be added to the bike. After that's put together, I tested the electricals and then decided I wanted to put flat out tire sealant inside the bike tires. I put flat out in the front first, then in the rear, and after that was done, I was pretty much ready to ride. So this is the actual Hiboy C1. First of all, I wanted to point out that the frame design is a little different that you typically see off a 14-inch type e-bike. This little bike actually runs a lot more like a larger bike than it does like most of the mini bikes. One of the reasons that might be is because it does have the front suspension, which is not typical. I mean, there are some bikes that have actually had it at this size that have front suspension, but this one actually feels a lot better than some of the others. Also, we noticed that the tires are a little larger than some of the competition that's out there for the 14-inch, I would say the mini bikes that are like this. The other thing is that it does have a more powerful motor. So we're gonna go over all the specs from the front to the back. Because it's a mini bike, there's not a whole lot to go over that's gonna be like extra detailed, but I will give every possible detail that you're gonna like about this bike because it does have significant differences over a lot of the competition, and the first and foremost is going to be power. So let's get looking at the motor first, starting with the motor back here. Now there's a lot of bikes that claim 350 watts. The thing is, this is a 36 volt, 350 watts that puts out over 600 watts. In the manual that comes with the bike, it says 648 watts total peak power that gets put out from this bike. So that in itself is already a lot of power. And you definitely feel it against other bikes in this class of 350 watt 14-inch tires. Now the other thing I like about this bike a lot when you're looking at the backside here is the frame design is really nice. Also, if you can see how the paint sparkles, it is metallic white. Since we're back here and showing some of the super highlights is, one, it does have an integrated taillight. Now this taillight does go on when the headlight is on, so you do have a night light as well, but it also blinks as a brake light. This is just a reflector, so there is no power that actually goes to this, but here you definitely get visibility. In fact, when we were doing the filming, my camera guy kept on saying that it kept flashing, and it was because I was holding the brakes a lot going down a hill. And he was like, hey, it flashes quite a bit. He thought it was on, but no, it is actually a brake light that flashes, so it's an indicator that you are braking. So that is something that's very visible because he kept saying that he could see it while we were riding. The other thing is it does have a port for charging the battery right here in the back, but this battery has a handle. This is not just a cover, it's actually a handle, and the battery can be removed. And I'll go ahead and I'll do a segment on that. There is a cap on the bottom that covers the keyhole. Now with that keyhole being covered, what you want to make sure you do is you have to pull down the cap first and then push it to the side. You don't try to flip it. If you try to flip the cap, you will break it off. Okay, so just keep that in mind. The key very easily goes into the bottom. You just kind of stick it in there. It does a quarter turn. Once the turn is made, you can easily just take the battery and pop it straight back and out. And then what I want to do is come up and show you the battery specs. So this battery specs is 7.8 amp hours, 280.8 watt hours. This is what we have as a battery, very small. The key basically just locks in this into place. What you see here is the key and the locking mechanism, very simple. So the key just turns and then it just locks this into place. So then with that, all we have to do is, if we want to put the battery back, we can just stick this in, slide it in. There, push that in. Once it's in, you're gonna do a quarter turn on the key. And once that quarter turn is made, then you just go ahead and pop the cover back over. You can charge the battery on or off the bike. One thing I want to point out for anybody who gets a bike like this, you definitely want to make sure that you pull the cover down and then twist. Don't try to flip it out. It's not a flip cover, it's a twist the off cover. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right, next thing I want to go ahead and point out on this bike, as we look back, it is a single speed, and then with a sprocket in the front here, you do start to air pedal anything over 14 miles an hour. This is just too small of a bike to actually get some gearing where you're going to be helping it too much, but it does get some great mileage. You can get up to 21 miles if you're going to be using the bike at just throttle only, and you can get up to 43 miles if you're helping the bike along. Now, they do have some very specific details about that. One is that you're going to have to be a rider that is actually under 230 pounds total weight with this, which is with this bike is 50 pounds on flat ground, no wind, and no helping of it, and I'm basically staying at the eco mode. So keep that in mind. This mileage that's said, that, I mean, 40 miles is quite a bit if you're going to be helping it, but you're going to be not going very fast the whole time, but you're also going to have this bike helping you along with it and ideal conditions. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is that it does come with a 1.5 amp charger, and that means that it does still take, even this little battery at a little over 7 amps, I think it's 7.8, does take it quite a while for it to recharge. You need about 5 or 6 hours to recharge from a completely dead state. But with the mileage that you get, you can still go pretty good on it. We did go on this morning ride straight up a hill 1 mile with these little tires. You'll see some of the footage of that as well. Now, everything you see on the bike comes the way it is. The only thing that does not come with the cell phone holder. It also does not come with a bottle holder, but I do recommend getting one of these because you can carry your keys, your wallet, but you can ride around, but it's an extra way to hold it. We do carry both of these units on the ebikeproducts.com website. You can get it at ebikeproducts.com/shop. Cool thing about, I guess, the whole style about this bike is that it does fit anywhere. That's first and foremost. It also does have foldable pedals. So here, you can fold this up, put this back down, and that actually will allow this bike to be a lot thinner. And you're talking the whole width of the bike. The widest points will be the handlebars, but that also folds down. I'll be showing you that as well a little later. But it also does have foldable pedals that come in. So the compactness of this bike is very, very small. We also have a lot of the tech that big bikes have and a little more, and I'm going to talk about that a little as well too. You do have an integrated headlight, and this does turn on with just the click of a button. When the headlight is on, so is the tail light. These tires are a little thicker than a lot of the 14-inch tires that are on a lot of the competitors. And even though it's a same size that it claims of 14 by 2.125, we measured it against the other one and it's definitely thicker. But the biggest thing that actually makes this bike significantly more smooth in riding and stable is this front suspension. In fact, when I first started test riding it, I thought the tires were flat because I forgot it had front suspension, and it just felt so soft in the front and such a smooth ride. And even when John rode it, he was saying it's incredible how much more smoother it is because he rides a competitor's bike all the time. He leaves it in his car because he has a hard time walking longer distances. So whenever he parks further, he uses a bike like this, takes it out of the back of his seat of his truck, and then he rides it to wherever he needs to go to. He does have a lot of knee problems currently at the moment, so a bike like this is his mobility vehicle from the parking stall to wherever he's going to go to, and it comes in very handy for him. We do have mechanical front brakes in the back and the front, and these are 160 millimeter mechanical disc brakes. These work really well. As you can see, here are some of my skid marks that I made from making the opening scene of this video. And yeah, they grab really well. The other thing we do have here is a cadence sensor. You notice every single one of these plugs that we have around throughout the bike does have very, very nice housing. This bike is basically, I think, weather rated. These are IPX5 rating, so you can ride this in light rain. They do say in the instructions, if you ever do get it a little wet, as soon as you come to a place that you can wipe it down. Of course, you should never ride in heavy downpour rain. We also have very soft seat.
This is actually a super comfortable seat for a bike like this. And this is one I didn't have to worry too much about. It was very comfortable even with the longer ride that we had this morning going to get some breakfast. It does come with fenders on both the front and the back. We have fenders. Now, if you did notice, it is something that you might want to take note of, is that for those of you that are taller, this is pretty much the minimum. In fact, if you notice, it already shows that I'm already a little higher than the minimum for me, myself, at only being 5'5". But this is the highest point that you will have the bike put at. Now, it is a mini bike, so of course not really necessarily made for you to ride with a lot of pedaling most of the time, so maybe it might not make a difference, but just keep that in mind. You could get a longer post, but it doesn't go that deep into the frame, and because of that you cannot use a really too long of a post. But this does work fine. Like I said, it's still one of the most comfortable bikes of a mini bike that I've ever ridden, even with the size that we have. We do also have the folding neck mechanism here. As you can see, there is a safety latch on the top here. Pull that down and it will come down. And I'll go ahead and go through the whole folding process. So in this segment, I'm going to show you the folding and unfolding. And basically, the bike is 50 pounds, so just keep that in mind. It is liftable, so you can put it in a car, but it is still 50 pounds. So know what your weight limits is as far as what you can pick up and what you might be able to lift. There is one thing that I would say is a small annoyance, is that this kickstand, it does hold the bike up, but is not exactly the most stable. And it is the design of the bike and the kickstand styles that are available for mini bikes, but this is a little heavier than a lot of other mini bikes, but it uses the same kickstand. So just be aware that a lot of mini bikes do have this problem with this type of kickstand, and that is something you might run into. Now, to fold down this bike, you just lift up the latch that's in the front here, which I showed earlier, and you just basically pull this and it will fold down. And when it comes all the way down, if you want to, you can remove the seat, pop this out, and this is what you'll be packing into the car. This is it. I mean, this height is probably 2 feet. It's really, really short. I mean, it's below, what's about maybe thigh height. And of course, with that, you can fold in the pedals. So this is how small the post is. And like I said, it doesn't go very deep. In fact, if you think about it, it is hitting the bottom, so that's why the post is so short. It doesn't need to be that much longer, but you can put this in here. You can probably replace the post with another one because it does go deep enough to go ahead and hold that way. You don't need to go that far in for a lot of posts. You might want to put a suspension post if that's something that's an option for you. And if you want to know what size this is, it's a 28.6. I want to go over the dash very quickly. You do have your bell here. That comes with it. It does also have good grips that do not spin, so it's not locking grips, but they do grab well enough that it's not going to spin on you, that I could tell. Your standard mechanical brakes here, these are not branded that I can tell, so there's not much I can tell you other than they work well. And the good thing is, which I think every bike should always have, regardless of how big or small it is, it has auto cutoffs. That's what the second line. This is for the brake itself. The bottom here is for the auto cutoff. So if you do start pulling on the brake, it does trigger a sensor that actually cuts off the motor from fighting you against your stop. And that's on both sides here, front and left. We do have a twist throttle here as well. This is your standard twist throttle, and you know, it works well for what this bike is. It works great. At the price point that you get it for, somebody said, well, it doesn't seem to compare in price with some of the others that might be in the same class, but it is a different bike. It actually is more powerful. It rides a little more like a larger size bike, so you are getting what you're paying for. You're getting a more premium style mini bike for the same size of a mini bike, but more power than your standard mini bike. And in most cases that makes a difference, because the other thing is this thing has a top speed of 20 miles an hour. Now you'll see me going downhill that's sometimes almost 25, and I think there was a time that John said he thought the speedometer said 28. And the reason why I could go down that fast is because it was stable enough that it didn't concern me. I didn't feel as though I was in any danger, and I just let the bike roll down a hill at that speed. Now we have a slant in this area that I ride in, and it easily gets up to 20 miles an hour. Now you're not going to have the torque pickup like any of the larger 500, 750 watt bikes, but at a 350, it's pretty amazing how fast this bike does pick up. Some of those other mini bike competitors look like toys. This actually does have not only a feel of a bigger bike, but it also has the power well above any of the other competitors. Okay, so we're in the garage to go ahead and show this, because being in the direct sunlight, it throws the camera frame rate off and it makes everything look like it's flickering. But this is what it really looks like. You do have your battery display on the bottom here, and you do have your push button here. Now if you double push on this button, it'll change to eco mode, and it goes through the cycling, and this is your regular mode, and then this is your sport mode. So you do have these 3 different modes that you can go through, and it does go by different miles per hour. If you're in eco, I believe the highest speed is like 9 miles an hour. At the D mode, which is, I don't even remember what it was called, but for D mode, the regular medium, you'll go up to 15 miles an hour. And then if you want sport mode, you can go up to 20 miles an hour. So you do have these 3 different settings. Now you notice that there is a Bluetooth symbol here that's flashing. I did not sync it with my phone, but with the app on here, you can control your setting of your sport, of your 3 different things here. You can also turn the bike on and off, and that's something that's kind of unique to a smaller mini bike. They usually typically don't have a Bluetooth type setting. This meter here it's a 5-point meter, so as you can see, it's about 60 or 50% charge. Again, double click changes the modes. And you can all do this again in the app as well if you have it synced up to your app. And then you can turn on and off the bike. To turn on and off, you just hold it down. So I'm going to hold it down, and it shuts off the bike. Again, hold it down for about 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, and it turns on the bike. If you hit it 3 times, then you can change to kilometer per hour. So again, I'm going to hit it 3 times, and it goes to miles per hour. So that's how you change the setting for the metric to standard system. Now, if you just push the button once, it turns on the headlight. And I don't know if you saw that, but let me go ahead. I'm going to push it once again and look at. Okay, so I'll push it once, and then it turns off the headlight, and then I'll push it again, and it turns on the headlight. So that's your headlight there. Again, it is daytime, right about noon, and even with light coming in from the outside, you can still see it in the garage lighting up. The other thing that you do have here, again, is the tail light that's on. If you hold the brake, it does flash, and this again goes on and off. So that's again another premium feature of a mini bike that you typically don't see.